Hey Pearlside Youth, my name is Melody and this is Fresh Word Friday. So welcome back to our series of navigating change. This week I'm actually going to be reading from Numbers 13 and 14. So go ahead and read it, but I'm just going to give you a quick summary. Basically, the Israelites are in the desert. They had been freed from slavery in Egypt. And so God was leading them to the promised land. And they're in this place, kind of in the middle of the wilderness. And God tells Moses to send 12 spies into the land of Canaan to go and check out the land and basically bring back some fruits and some information for them. And so the spies come back, and there's most of them, actually, there's just 2 of them that came back with a positive outlook on things. Everyone else was like, we will not be able to defeat the people. They're large, their cities are fortified. There's no way we can defeat them, so let's go back to Egypt and let's go be slaves. And so basically, Moses intercedes for them and he prays for them. He's like, God, I know the people are disobedient and fearful, but please keep your promise to give us that land. And God does, but their punishment or what happened because of them not trusting in God actually allowed one generation to pass. Even Moses wasn't able to enter into the promised land. And the next generation, led by 2 of the spies that were actually positive and trusted God and believed that even though the people were big and strong, they would still be able to defeat them because God was on their side. Caleb and Joshua and the next generation were able to enter to the promised land. We are so much like the Israelites, especially when we face difficulties in life. It can be an illness. Maybe you know someone or are afraid of catching COVID-19, or you're afraid to go back to school. We still don't know what it's gonna look like. There's plans, but you're still fearful. Or maybe your parents lost their job and they're not sure how they're going to provide for the family. Whatever circumstance or difficulty that you're going through, it is so real, and it can really make you afraid to move in faith or be obedient to God or trust God. But the other thing is true, is that though your problems are real, God is real too. And God is greater than our circumstances, and He is faithful, and we can trust Him with the future. And so how do we do that? How do we answer to this? It's all in our choices. So I'm going to teach you in 3 steps. And so our response is really in the choices that we make. We can either choose to trust God, or we can choose not to trust God and to trust in our own selves. But God's never going to force us to do that. And so He leaves us that choice to make. And so how do we choose to trust God in the face of difficult circumstances? 1, we can choose to see the possibilities despite the problems. And so just like the spies, there are 10 of the spies that came back saying that they would not be able to defeat them, that they were like grasshoppers to them, even though they were the same. And basically what they were saying is that they were weaker, they were not able to defeat them, and basically they were useless, right? And so if we think of it this way, like these bananas, they kind of look useless, right? You would just pass them over or think, oh, this is trash, I'm gonna throw them away. But if we choose to see possibilities in these bananas, we might be able to use them for a different purpose, which ties into our second point, is to choose to seize opportunities in the face of obstacles. And so opportunities really are moments of time. If we don't take risks, sometimes we miss that opportunity. If we don't do something with these bananas now, they really might become trash and useless, right? And we don't see that if we take these bananas and put them into the right hands who know what to do with them, they can turn into delicious banana bread. And so if we seize opportunities of difficulties or challenges that we go through, if we put them in God's hand and we trust Him with it, then He can really turn our difficulties into something good. And so back to the Israelites, God honored the choices that they made. Most of the people wanted to complain and just go back to being slaves in Egypt. But there were two of them, Caleb and Joshua, who really had faith in God, who trusted that if he was going to promise them that land, that he would be with them, and he would, through God, that they would be able to defeat them and enter into the land. And so what they did was they faced the facts. Yes, the people that were living in Canaan at the time were bigger, they were stronger, but they knew that God was also bigger and that God was also stronger. And so they faced the facts, they saw with eyes of faith, they spoke with words of faith, and they stepped out into faith. And so faith really is a substance of things that we cannot see. So when we look at these bananas, we don't see banana bread, right? But when we see with eyes of faith, we might be able to see that, you know, these bananas would be perfect to make banana bread. So we can choose to listen to the voices that keep us stuck or keep us fearful, or we can choose to listen to the voices of faith. When we choose to focus on how great God is, all of a sudden our challenges look smaller. All of a sudden our difficulties don't look as hard. So it really comes down to our faith. It's a choice that we make in order to see with eyes of faith and to speak with words of faith and to step into faith. So if you're feeling like a grasshopper or weak or useless or this junky, ugly banana, I would encourage you to trust God. Choose to trust God. Choose to see with eyes of faith, to speak words of faith, and choose to put your junky bananas into the hands of God and know that He's gonna make delicious banana bread out of it. So we'll see you next week, Pearlside Youth. Have a great weekend.